1980. The United States Patent and Trademark Office grants patent number 4229761. Formal title on the document: Illusion Transmitter. Concave mirrors that throw a real three-dimensional image into open air. Her name is Valerie Thomas, and she is alive today. The geometry is now inside real image 3D displays, autostereoscopic systems, and surgical visualization, and her name appears on none of them. The receipt is in the United States Patent and Trademark Office database, patent 4229761, granted on the 21st of October, 1980. Inventor of record: Valerie L. Thomas, NASA Goddard, Greenbelt, Maryland. The geometry that patent describes, two parabolic concave mirrors mounted facing each other, an object at the focal point of one, an aperture in the other, is the foundation of every real image three-dimensional display in the modern instrument literature. The patent is public record. The downstream citations are public record. The name on the patent, as the work moves outward across fields and decades, stops appearing. What you are about to learn is something the documentaries about NASA's hidden women have not told you. The next time you walk past a CT scanner, look into a children's museum 3D exhibit, or read a paper on autostereoscopic displays, you are looking at the descendants of one patent. Number 4229761. Filed in 1978 by a Black American NASA scientist who is still alive at the time of this recording, and filed as an individual inventor, not assigned to NASA. Her name is in the patent. It is not in the legacy. Mae Jemison flew on the Endeavour. Katherine Johnson got a film. Valerie Thomas built infrastructure. And we do not understand why the rescue wave that lifted them did not lift her. Before the patent, there was the data, 11 years of it. In the summer of 1964, age 21, Valerie L. Thomas graduated from Morgan State University, one of America's historically black universities, with a Bachelor of Science in Physics, one of two women in her class, and walked into a job at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland. Goddard is not the center that puts people in cockpits. Goddard is the center that puts unmanned satellites in orbit and processes the data they send back. Infrastructure work, the unglamorous backbone of everything visible at Kennedy and Johnson. Thomas would work there for 31 years. On the 23rd of July, 1972, NASA launched the first Earth Resources Technology satellite, later renamed Landsat 1, the first satellite designed to photograph every square kilometer of land on Earth systematically on a repeating schedule. Someone had to turn the downlink into pictures useful to a geologist in Kazakhstan, a farmer in Iowa, an oceanographer in Lisbon. Thomas managed the image processing systems for the Landsat program. She helped design the computer-compatible tape format that became the international standard for distributing satellite imagery for a decade and a half. Then, in 1976, at a science exhibit, she watched a demonstration. A man set up a single concave mirror behind a hidden light bulb. He flicked a switch. To the viewer in front of the mirror, the light bulb appeared to float in space 3 feet in front of where it actually was. A real, focusable, three-dimensional image hanging in open air. Thomas understood the optics immediately. She also saw that the single mirror setup limited the viewing angle. She went back to Goddard and started working on a 2-mirror version. The geometry she built is conceptually simple. Take 2 parabolic concave mirrors, the kind that focus parallel light to a point. Mount them facing each other along a common vertical axis, the way 2 satellite dishes might face each other across a small room. Cut a small hole at the center of the upper mirror. Place a small object at the focal point of the lower mirror. Light from the object bounces off the lower mirror, converges as it travels upward, passes through the aperture in the upper mirror, and reaches a second focus point in the open air above the upper mirror, where the viewer sees a real 3-dimensional image of the object hanging in space. The image is not a hologram. There is no laser. There is no interference pattern. It is what physics calls a real image, distinct from the virtual image you see in a bathroom mirror, which appears to be behind the glass and cannot be projected onto a screen. A real image exists at a point in physical space. You can photograph it without a screen behind it. The two-opposed concave mirror configuration extends the viewing angle of the single mirror setup so that several people can see the floating image from different positions. That was the engineering contribution. That was the patentable claim. 2 years after the exhibit, she filed. On the 28th of December, 1978, application US 05/973-886 landed at the United States Patent and Trademark Office. Note the applicant field, not NASA, not the administrator of the space agency. Valerie L. Thomas, individual inventor. 22 months later, on the 21st of October, 1980, the patent grant came back stamped with the title she had given it on the application, Illusion Transmitter. Plain English on a USPTO document. That is the formal title, not a nickname, not a popular shorthand. The cover sheet of Patent 422-9761 reads Illusion Transmitter. Patents have lifespans. Patent 422-9761, filed in 1978, expired on the 28th of December, 1998, under the GATT-adjusted 20-year from filing term. The day after expiry, anyone could build the apparatus, sell the apparatus, or design instruments around the apparatus. The geometry was open. It diffused. Real image projection mirrors appeared in children's museum exhibits, surgical training simulators, optical instrument prototypes. By the 2010s, integral imaging displays, the family of autostereoscopic systems that project floating three-dimensional images for medical and engineering visualization, were treating Thomas's two-mirror configuration as a foundational case in their literature reviews. Here is the citation pattern. A 1998 paper on real image projection cites the patent, number 4229761, by full number and by inventor name. A 2006 review on integral imaging cites it by number, sometimes with the inventor's surname only. A 2018 survey on volumetric three-dimensional displays cites the number, drops the surname. A 2024 engineering textbook on real image optical systems names the configuration the parabolic aperture method and gives the patent as a footnote. The further out the work travels, the more the citation chain dissolves the inventor and keeps the number. This is not a conspiracy. This is the ordinary half-life of a name in a patent literature, when the inventor is not given a film, a biography, or a posthumous wave. Engagement mid-act, archivist register, single chiron beat. Had you heard of Valerie Thomas before this video? Tell me in the comments. I'm trying to map who actually broke through and who didn't. In 1992, Mae Jemison flew on the Space Shuttle Endeavour, the first black woman in space. The launch was watched by, among others, the data operations staff at NASA Goddard, where Valerie Thomas was at that point Associate Chief of the Space Science Data Operations Office. In 2016, Margot Lee Shetterly published Hidden Figures, and Theodore Melfi directed the film of the same name, pulling Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, and Mary Jackson out of the institutional shadow of NASA Langley. Both rescue events drew their salience from biographical drama. Thomas's work was infrastructure. The wave passed her by. Thomas retired from NASA in August 1995 as Associate Chief of the Space Science Data Operations Office. She received the Goddard Space Flight Center Award of Merit. She received the NASA Equal Opportunity Medal. And here is the detail the citation literature does not carry. The same year she retired, 1995, Thomas assigned patent 4229761 to a New York company called Dimensional Media Associates. 2 years later, the patent was reassigned to a Delaware entity. Read that twice. The government never owned this patent. Thomas did. She filed it as an individual in 1978. She held it for 17 years through her NASA career, and the year she walked out of Goddard for the last time, she sold it. As of the recording of this episode, Valerie Thomas is alive. She is in her mid-80s. She lives in Maryland. She is a National Inventors Hall of Fame inductee, class of 2018. She has spoken publicly on more than one occasion about her career and about her patent. The information needed to write her biography is available. The long-form documentary work that other NASA women subjects have received has not been done for her. This is the unusual feature of the case. The erasure is not posthumous. It is happening now in the present tense. while the subject is alive to be interviewed about it. Patents do not have memory. The United States Patent and Trademark Office database remembers the number, the inventor field, the assignee field, and the grant date, and treats them with equal weight. The technical literature is supposed to do the same. The citation conventions are designed for exactly that. The literature does not always do the same. As a patent moves outward across decades and across fields, from optics to medical visualization to autostereoscopic display engineering, the inventor field is the field most likely to fall off the citation when the patent is invoked as background art. The number survives, the name dissolves. You may, the next time you are in a science museum, see a small two-mirror apparatus in a case, with a coin or a light bulb hanging in apparent mid-air above it. The placard will probably say something about real images and the difference between a real image and a virtual image. It may say something about NASA. It is unlikely to say, Valerie Thomas, patent 4229761, filed as individual inventor on the 28th of December, 1978, assigned to Dimensional Media Associates on her retirement. You can look the patent up yourself. The USPTO database is searchable, free, and open to the public. The full text of every patent ever granted in the United States is one search field away. She filed the patent at 35 as an individual. She received the grant at 37. She sold it at 52. She is now 83. The geometry she built is in instruments and displays and museum cases across the world. The number on the patent is public record. The name on the number, Valerie L. Thomas, NASA Goddard, Greenbelt, Maryland, is the second name to ours. We do not know why this rescue wave did not lift her. We are still waiting to find out. Case files on the people history forgot to thank. New cases every week.